To be honest, every day when we turn up at court, we don't know what's going on. We don't really understand their legal system. We don't understand their language, and nothing is really explained to us.
Last month, TRT World journalist Mok Choy Lin and her crew were released from a prison in Myanmar after serving a 2-month sentence. A court convicted them of illegally flying a drone near the Parliament building in the capital, Naypyidaw. TRT World has always maintained their innocence, and charges connected to 2 other offences were eventually dropped. Well, Choy Lin is now back here in Istanbul and joins me in the studio. It's good to have you back, free, with us. The charges are dropped, but it's been quite the journey. Can you tell me what it felt like at the moment you realized something was going terribly wrong?
I think it was during the interrogation when we knew things were getting really serious. And it wasn't about a drone. They were after us for far more serious offenses. It struck me during the interrogation that they were on a witch hunt against my Muslim fixer. A lot of my interrogation was about him. I think they were trying to uncover kind of more serious offenses. They were kind of digging into his history. They confiscated his phone. They were asking me about my relationship with him. And later on, we were interrogated for 10 hours that night and then thrown into a cell. And then later on, I found out that they had raided his family's home in Yangon. 25 policemen with guns had gone into his family home. And another 25 policemen had raided my Muslim driver's home. And for 2 nights after that, they interrogated him. And for the next kind of 12 days of remand, they interrogated him about his entire past history. Kind of local public sentiment in Myanmar is kind of radically different from international opinion, and they were branding him as a Muslim terrorist.
Right.
Yeah, so we were really scared about what kind of charges they were after us with. And after the initial first charge, they proceeded to lay 2 more charges on us. And quite honestly, we were in detention for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, I didn't see a single soul. We weren't allowed, I asked the police, can I see someone from my embassy? Can I appoint a lawyer? And they basically ignored me and just threw me back into the cell. And the first people I saw was 2 weeks later at the trial itself. And the Turkish embassy had appointed a lawyer for us, and I met him for the first time 15 minutes before the trial. And we had no idea what was going to happen during the trial. That day we went into court and we thought we were being charged with this Import Act, and they charged us with an entirely kind of new charge, which we didn't understand. The whole court proceedings were in Burmese. Quite honestly, we were, we had no idea what was going on in those initial 2 weeks.
And were you sort of vacillating between trying to figure out whether this is a genuine misunderstanding from a paranoid state, or whether they were trying to use you and your colleagues as political pawns, maybe?
I don't think it was a misunderstanding at all, yeah. I think they wanted to make a lesson of us, that you can't come to our country and report on, we were doing a report on Muslims in Myanmar, and we were investigating, the Rakhine crisis as well. Now we have the Reuters case, which, so I think they're trying to send a message out to journalists that don't think you can just report on our country And you know, I think they were trying to make an example of us, and I think,
And the fact that you were reporting on the Rohingya, and that you had Muslim members of your team, was it a natural kind of connection for them to make that you must have nefarious intent and you're trying to undermine their country? Was that what you think their thinking was?
Yeah, I think by virtue of the fact that we were, you know, we were a Turkish broadcaster, and then, you know, we're investigating the Rakhine crisis. And then the fact that, you know, my fixer was Muslim, the driver was Muslim. I mean, I think they came to their own conclusions. And just by you know, their interrogation was not really about the drone, quite honestly. Yeah.
Overall, what did you learn about Myanmar throughout this ordeal? From behind bars, in your interactions with them, in the courtroom, what did you take out of the experience?
That you're powerless in the courtroom, that those, you know, it's not about the merits of the case that will determine your sentence, because there are bigger political games being played above. You know, I think, I mean, we got very, very scared in the courtroom because everything was going against us. And we couldn't quite understand why, except that kind of, you know, a higher hand wanted us punished, I think. And, you know, after a while we realized that, you know, when we were sentenced for 2 months, you know, I asked the lawyer, you know, you told us that we were expecting a fine, but we got 2 months. And he said, because your case is an exception. And by that, I think he meant it's a political case. It's not about the drone. And what I've learned about Myanmar, you know, I think Myanmar, there are 2 governments in Myanmar. And, you know, the police and the judiciary, it's under Home Affairs, it's under the military junta. And in a way, it feels like they're still in control of the country. And there's kind of like, to me, a facade of democracy, a facade of civilian rule. And in a way, they're using the civilian government almost to get away with their actions. And it feels to me like they're really in charge as well. So I think, you know, behind bars, we learned a lot about the country and who's really in power. And it's a precarious transition now for Myanmar. I mean, you know, I could easily see it sliding backwards, quite honestly.
Mok Choy Lin, it's been great to talk to you. I thank you very much for sharing your experience with us.